really important political and legislative update. Greg, please take it away.
Thank you, President Carmen. Good morning, fellow realtors, affiliates, and staff. And it's wonderful being here with you today. Okie doke. So today's presentation, we are going to be talking about CEQA a little bit and the danger of its expansion in the state of California. We will also be talking about housing laws that have been passed since 2016 and provide you with charts and evidence whether or not they've been effective and where are we in the context of things and how is it helping the shortage in California. We will be updating you on the housing is key, the tenant basically the amount of monies that were available to tenants, and we'll bring you up to date on the stats in Glendale, Burbank, and Pasadena. We will also be talking about, yes, California mortgage relief. It's important for you to know about this thing. We've talked about it before, but we will go through the website in a minute or two and show you how you can actually use this website and provide information to your clients and to the family and or your colleagues. And then, of course, finally, we will give you an update on the Glendale City Council meeting from last night. So let's get started. As you know, CEQA is a law that has been used and abused in the state of California. The latest, what I call, in my opinion, abuse of it was what happened in Berkeley, the People's Park, where the university wanted to build housing for the students. And yet, NIMBYs filed a lawsuit, and a judge on the appellate court, listened to this, held that as an EIR, as an impact, the student noise now is introduced and can be depended on as an impact for building additional housing in state of California. This is the danger with this thing. Now, more than 50 years ago, when this CEQA was enacted, there was an amendment on it that specifically stated that you should not expand the reach of CEQA, and yet this judge has ruled otherwise, and remains to be seen if Berkeley will take it to Supreme Court and whether or not the Supreme Court will turn down the decision. Now, imagine the noise. If this is going to become an impact under EIR or environmental impact reports, then a homeowners association, for example, in the city of Burbank, can turn around and say that this is going to create a lot of noise. You need to study the noise, and for that we are stopping the production of housing and or the building or the development of a multi-unit family. Just wanted you to be aware of that. Now let's talk about some of the housing laws that have passed since 2015, 16, and how they have impacted in California, and whether or not we're on track to be able to reach that 2.5 million housing units that the government had said by the end of the decade. Now, having said that, I want you to pay attention to this number. About 131,000 housing units were permitted in 2021. You know as well as I do, because you have been watching these presentations for the past 2 or 3 years, that California needs somewhere close to about 250,000 a year in order to be able to keep up with the population trend, as well as to be able to control, allay the housing shortage. So at 131,000, we're basically at half of what we need to do. But the good point about it was, or is, that you can see a spike, that's the red column, in affordable housing from 2018 to 2021, almost doubled. And you can look at the yellow column, the ADUs, that from 2018 to 2021, 2021, it almost doubled or more than doubled. So that's the good news about it, but it is not enough. As I said, 2.5 million housing units by the end of the decade will need at least about 250,000 or so production permits per year. Now, today, with the high interest rates and the recession knocking on the door, this may become difficult. I thought that I am going to segregate the ADU production and provide you information on the ADUs in the city of Glendale. So what is happening in Glendale and ADU permits and so forth. If you remember, pardon me, in 2017, 2016, when this law was enacted that single family homes now can build ADUs, there was I don't want to say an uproar, but a tremendous concern among homeowners. In fact, it was present at the city council meetings that this would proliferate the housing, the single family areas, and it would turn them into multifamily areas. So let's look at what and how many permits per year have been pulled for ADUs in city of Glendale. In 2018, there were only 69 permits that were pulled. In 2019, 112. In 2020, 140. And in 2021, 256. I mean, when you add these numbers and average it out over 4 years, that comes to an average of about 140, 144 ADUs in city of Glendale that have been permitted or permits issued. That's infinitesimal as far as the number. I mean, when you compare it to 25, 26,000 single family homes, this is nothing. So those concerns about turning single family zoning areas into multifamily were unfounded. And here is a chart just to give you the visual on these numbers in the past 4 or 5 years. In fact, if you look at it in 2022, I also added that to the chart, and that's because I have the information that was provided to me from the city of Glendale. You can see that between 2021 and 2022, it's the same number of permits that has been issued. It'll be interesting to see what will happen in next year or so. But as you can see, between 2020 and 2021 in the yellow chart, it was almost doubling, and it's the same trend in city of Glendale because, well, we are part of Los Angeles County. So next time when somebody comes out and tells you that, hey, ADUs are taking away the character, the beauty, and so forth of the single family homes, this is the chart that you refer them to. This is based on statistics and facts. Let's talk about a little bit on the housingiskey.com and the relief that has been provided to the tenants, not only in the city of Glendale, Burbank, and also Pasadena. About 4,800 households in city of Glendale have each received close to about $16,000 based on the funds available from the federal funds and the state funds on this relief. And a total of about $80 million was passed through to tenants for their rents in arrears to be able to pay their landlords. That's $80 million in the city of Glendale. In Pasadena, in Burbank, it was about 30 million, and in Pasadena, another 30 million, or about 2,000 households each. So the region has seen 10,000 tenants being attended to, helped with their rent in the past 2 or 3 years. And this is significant because this talk about rent control, and by the way, this is in addition to Measure S monies that this city council of Glendale, to the tune of $3 or $4 million a year, has allocated and has paid out to population at risk, mostly seniors, veterans, and so forth. So again, this number is to put everything in perspective. When we talk about rent control, right, we already have a rent control, folks. The rental cap in the city of Glendale is at 7%. And then right after that, if you want to increase it, you could, but you got to pay a hefty relocation fee based on the market rents to the landlords. Having said that, the idea behind presenting this to you was to show you that it's not all doom and gloom when it comes to the renter space. True, you have issues with affordability, and there is no questions about that. That affordability will expand, will increase if you allow production or if units are produced. Rent control is not the answer. It's not generating new units in city of Glendale. All right, so the next thing that I want to talk to you about is as there are reliefs available to renters, there are mortgage reliefs available to homeowners as well. In fact, as far as mortgage relief is concerned, a homeowner that is qualified can get up to $80,000 for mortgage payments, for payments that they've fallen behind on mortgages, up to about $20,000 in property tax help, and of course, partial claim loan deferral and reverse mortgage. So what I want to do is to share with you now the website for the mortgagerelief.org that is put out by HUD, and it's for you to be able to become aware of this and perhaps share it with some of your clients or some of your colleagues and or some of the family that may have difficulty with the mortgage and property taxes. The way that you do it is that if you go on the website and you press apply now, and I'm doing this just to show you how it's done. For example, I'm behind on my mortgage. I have a COVID related issue. I'm behind on property taxes and or reverse mortgage, right? Either one of them. If that's all, then it takes you to the next one and asks you questions. Have you experienced COVID distress? Have you missed your mortgages? Is your home, by the way, this is for your primary residence, right? And are you applying for a primary loan mortgage and so forth? And you press it, you put a zip code, say 91207, and you will see the results. And it tells you that based on the information you do not meet the criteria, but you go back, you did not check whatever that you need to check, and takes you back to where you're supposed to be to fill out your application. What I'd like to show you here is some statistics on what is happening as far as that program is concerned. Just like housingiskey.org, this one has a dashboard. You can see that the total households served by mortgage relief in the state of California is about 13,000. About $350 million has been spent thus far. An average amount paid to the household is somewhere close to about $26,000. You can go by zip code, by the way, and find out the different zip codes and so forth. And for example, in the city of Glendale, let's look at one of the zip codes so you can see what I mean by that. That's assuming if I can find it somewhere around here. And you get the point. For example, in this zip code, 92346, I don't know where that is. About 30 households have qualified. They've received $656,000 and about $21,000 in help in mortgage relief. So that's as far as the California Mortgage Relief.org is concerned. What I'd like to do is to update you on the City Council meeting from last night. On Monday night, Pasadena and Burbank approved the joint powers agreement to create a housing trust, regional housing trust, and City of Glendale approved it last night. What that does is this is based on Senator Portantino's SB 1177. So these three cities together now have a JPA agreement, and that they have been provided seed money from the state of California to the tune of about $23 million. Once you take the administrative costs are about maybe $20 million that they can use jointly in developing housing, affordable housing, low-income housing for the folks that live in the region. Of course, they have bonding authority, by the way, which needs to be clarified, because I had actually asked the city council about it, at least one council member for the clarification. I don't think that it's been clarified yet, because they're not allowed. They have limitations that they cannot assess property assessments in order to pay for the development of low-income housing. So it remains to be seen how that bonding authority will work, and we will follow that very, very intently and very closely for you. The other thing that I think is of utmost importance for you all to be aware of is that on April 18th, this city council will be discussing the councilmatic districts. As you know, City of Pasadena has 7 districts, and City of Burbank doesn't, Glendale doesn't either. There are arguments pro and con, right, for councilmatic districts and so forth. So I just wanted you to be aware that this is coming, and if there are any concerns amongst you or people that you know that you need to be raised, it needs to be raised in the council level, please drop me a line or call me, and I'll be happy to do it. With that, I thank you, President Carmen, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Yes, there are questions. Sevak's hand is up. Sevak, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Greg, for the information. I was just wondering, this joint housing agency that is formed between the 3 cities, how are they gonna develop? As far as 20 million might not be a lot of money to go in 3 different municipalities. How are they gonna divide up the units built in what location? And my second question is, are these units gonna go towards the state mandate for those cities to have develop low-income housing or not? Thanks.
So to answer the last part of your question, whether or not this would help us meet the RHNA, Regional Housing Numbers Need Assessment, the answer is yes. The first part of your question is, the answer is the following. They will be the first meeting, I believe it's in the first week of April, they will be creating a board of directors, and that board of directors will decide how to say for the first project at the very least, whether there will be an agreement among the 3 participants of the JPA, where it's going to be and how it's going to be built and what city it's going to be built. If there are disagreements about that, part of the 20 million left after the administrative costs will be available individually for each city to apply towards low-income housing. But keep in mind, that's not enough, as you said, and you're absolutely correct. And the way that this JPA is empowered now by the state law is that they can issue bonds. Now, it remains to be seen whether it's a project bond, for example, if they build a project and issue bonds on that project based on the income of that project in order to provide the financing to build it, or whether it's going to be general bonds, just like as the school bonds that we have approved, college bonds that we have. It remains to be seen. It's unclear. What is for a fact in part of their operation agreement is that this JPA, this trust, cannot assess properties in order to pay for low-income housing. Again, a lot is unknown, but we are intently following. Thank you.
Thank you. Ira has a question.
Greg, am I correct? I think I am, that the city council previously discussed separate districts and they voted against it. And my concern this time would be there's at least 2 new council members this time versus the last time. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on how this might go down.
Thank you. Good question. Years ago, that was discussed The City Council of Glendale found that there was no need for councilmatic districts. As you know, there is an entity that goes around and sues cities to make sure that they turn into councilmatic districts so that they can represent the entire population fairly. And there was enough evidence in the city of Glendale that different ethnicity groups and so forth have participated and, you know, became council members and so forth. And how it would go forward from now, I don't know, but I do know that there is a great deal of appetite for it. And yes, you know, this is something that a lot of people have promised to look into through their run for the Glendale City Council, and it remains to be seen. I'm not going to be able to handicap that unless and until such time that I hear the first couple of meetings. By the way, this is not going to happen immediately, yes? And if there is a decision made on that, I believe it needs to go on the ballot for the voters to decide.
And sort of along the same lines, the school district separated into different districts before. How's that been working out for the city?
Well, the school district is an entity totally different from the city. So how has it been working out? I haven't heard anything, you know, negative about it. But they did so because they did not want to get sued by that entity. By the way, I mean this is a recent event. It happened about a few years ago. So
thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are any other questions, please raise your hand. Anybody else? Okay, there was a question in the chat from Keith. Keith, are you on the line?
Yeah, if you want to read the question, I'm just curious what the association's perspective is on this.
You mean on councilmatic districts?
Yeah, I'm just curious. Is that something that leadership is discussing, or do we care? I don't know.
Well, we'll find out. Keith, we are a member-driven organization, so definitely this would be a discussion at the very least at the beginning at the LGLR and then at the board of directors, I would assume. But my recommendation would be to absolutely discuss it and figure out the pros and cons of it and see, you know, whether it's something that the Glendale Association of Realtors needs to weigh in. Well, we haven't made that decision yet.
Well, I just would like to, I guess, point out to those that are interested. A lot of times, I think there are people that kind of go, "Well, gee whiz, the association never does anything." Well, here's a great opportunity, and if you want to get involved, talk to Greg, talk with leadership, because if nobody says anything, no one says anything.
Thank you, Keith, for bringing that up. The answer to your question, does the association care? Absolutely. I think you guys have seen our work and you have seen us in action. The reason why we have the just cause eviction and the 7% rate increase, which is the envy of other cities, is because of the association's efforts, and it's because of all of you speaking up, being present, and letting everybody know what the facts are so that decisions that are made correctly with factual data and not just, you know, made in a vacuum. So everybody's participation is necessary. We need to be active in this city. We are not going to be another Pasadena. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not disparaging Pasadena or anything else, but I don't know where these people were. You know, everybody needs to be present and speak up. So when the time comes and when we have call to action, text going out to you, emails, whatever, please, it only takes a second. But what does it do? It makes our voice heard. It makes it known that, you know, there is opposition to some of these frivolous things that are being proposed by some of our lawmakers. And, you know, we need to make our voices heard. It carries a lot of weight, people. It does. So thank you, Keith, for bringing that up and mentioning it. Guys, you want to learn about what?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Madam Chair, there's one more thing that I'd like to add to it once you're done.
I'm pretty much done. I think I finished my preach. So go ahead.
In defense of Pasadena, I have a lot of respect for the Pasadena AOR's CEO and Government Affairs Director. I mean, they worked their tails off on this rent control measure. I know because I was privy of that. You know, and by the way, that's knocking on the door of City of Glendale and Burbank as well. Keith, the other feather in your cap as a member, the other feather in the cap of the board of directors and the executive committee of this association is what we just defeated about 2.5 years ago, Rent Registry, which was the prelude to rent control. I mean, municipalities don't need rent registry unless they want to go into rent control. So I just wanted for you to know that there is a lot that gets done and a lot behind the scenes that maybe the members are not aware of it. But all they need to do is to click on the gap corner on the website and they'll be brought up to date in a New York minute. With that, President Carmen, thank you.
Thank you. And what I said earlier had a caveat that I wanted to finish my thought, and that was, it was the people who didn't show up. The association, PFAR, did their best. I mean, there's only so much they can do. So with that, I thank you, Greg, as always, for bringing us good information, keeping us aware of what is happening that affects our business.